My name is Emilia Martinez. I'm with the Youth Justice Coalition. I have been stopped by the LAPD and Inglewood Police a lot of times, asking me where I'm from, where I'm going, just because of my tattoo in my neck, just because I dress like a guy doesn't mean I'm from a hood. 608 people were killed by police officers in LA County since 2000. Today at 9:30 a.m., a police officer killed the youth in Los Angeles. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is John X. Mataka. I'm the president of the Grayson Neighborhood Council, community activist for many years in Stanislaus County. I'm here today to set the record straight. You heard one view about how things are going in Stanislaus County. I'm here to give you the people's understanding of what's happening. There was talk about the culture of ethical leadership concerning law enforcement in Stanislaus County, but I'm here to tell you that the Sheriff's Department was planning to put an immigration detention center in the heart of the Mexican community and business area on Crow's Landing Road without any notice to the public until two of us, myself and another gentleman, brought it to the CEO of the county's attention, and then realignment appeared. And he didn't need the funding to double bunk immigrants and the population that was right there in that community to field his deputies at the jail. So it was dropped. That's the only reason. I want to tell you, too, that 2 M16 rifles, talk about the militarization of police forces, 2 M16 rifles were missing, along with 11 Glock 9mm pistols from the Stanislaus County Sheriff's Department. When asked not about the Glock pistols, but about the 2 M16 rifles that were missing by Kevin Oliver of the Sacramento Channel 3, Sheriff Christensen said, well, it must be a paper error or a retiree must have taken them, must have possession of it. So I told the Board of Supervisors, look, I worked for the county for 35 years. I don't take no M16 home. That's thievery, right? So considering—
Thank you.
Well, let me finish. Concerning
your time is
Ferguson, I'm
up.
just about finished. Concerning
Well, you have to
Ferguson
go.
and what's happening in Ferguson, you know, I don't think that's right. And I filed a complaint with the Attorney General, so let's see if she moves any faster than it does in Stanislaus County. And 1 minute is unacceptable and disrespectful
Well, I'm
to the
giving
community.
people a minute
I'm
and a half.
I'm just telling you, that's
because
very— we listen to all your shit. That's very disrespectful.
Oh, thank you. You're building a strong case.
Good evening. I hope that you look past our anger to understand that we're here representing hundreds, maybe thousands at this point of deaths, and really listen to the facts and the stories we're representing and not our anger, and act on the facts and not that. People have already said that Los Angeles County leads the nation, not in a little bit, but by far, in terms of use of force by law enforcement leading to homicide. 608 people now killed since 2000. This also includes an increase in deaths since 2007. So as homicides have dropped by 50%, the lowest homicide rates in our county in terms of the community responsibility since the 1950s, law enforcement homicides are up. African Americans in LA County represent 9.2% of LA County's population, but 28% of those killed by law enforcement. Latinos are 47% of our county's population, but 53% of those killed by law enforcement. Body cameras are not going to solve this issue, especially when they only cover what the community does and not what law enforcement does. The integration of police departments is also alone not going to solve this issue. LAPD and LA County sheriffs are now the most integrated departments in the nation in terms of African American representation, Latinos, and women on the force, but they have the highest kill rate. It's not about who you put in the uniform, it's about what the uniform does to the people. We have to change police culture. We need changes beyond body cameras and data, although data is very important to the Youth Justice Coalition. We had to collect our own data from the coroner's office, which was all verified by the coroner in LA Times, because our law enforcement departments would not give it to us, refused to give it to us, even though under LAPD they were under a consent decree to do so. We need real community oversight that includes an independent counsel and investigative power.
Thank you very much. Your time is up, but if you could give us your
We
data
gave you
in
the
writing,
platform,
we're very interested in it.
and I hope that
Thank you.
we can follow this up with real hearings that include community solutions and not just solutions from the mightiest in the state.
Thank you. I think you're the next
Yes.
person.
Can you see me?
Yeah.
Can you see me now? Well, I'm looking at you and you look tired, all you guys. But I don't think y'all as tired as I am. I'm tired. First and foremost, my name is Jose Gallegos, and I want you guys to look at me. Mr. Melendez, Lackey, Mr. Hancock, Mr. Quirk, Mr. Cooper, and Ms. Lowe, I don't know if that's you, but look at me. Because I'm tired. Tired first and foremost from this 8-hour trip coming up here, right? Tired of seeing all these families, not just on the media, but real lives that I see on a daily basis, crying and crying and coming to these hearings complaining. I got tired a long time ago. Look, my tattoos, I used to be a part of the problem. So I tried to become a part of the solution. Because I got tired of being a part of the problem, right? And I know in a minute my time's gonna be up. But I want you to know, I guess what they say, if you can't beat them, join them, right? But if I join LAPD, then I'm just being a part of their problem. That's it. Remember that.
Thank you
No, thank
very much. Well, no, thank you. It's important testimony. Yeah.
Good afternoon, Ronald Coleman here on behalf of the California Immigrant Policy Center. We definitely appreciate you holding this hearing today, but share the concerns from many others about many of the panelists and including more community members in the future. You know, this is a really important issue to immigrant rights groups as well. Certainly as we do our policy dialogues around the state, we find that racial profiling is something that comes up all the time. We know that traditionally, historically, this has impacted African-American communities, but we've heard stories here about how Latino communities are targeted, how API communities are targeted. We certainly know that the definition that we have for racial profiling in California based on race and ethnicity might not even fit within the world we live in today. We also know that people are perceived in a variety of ways, whether it's gender, sexual orientation, or religion. We know that members of the American Muslim community or the Sikh community are often targeted because of the way they look. So we definitely encourage you to update the definition of racial profiling and bring it up to 2015 conditions. Additionally, we also think that there should be a standardization, a strengthening, and a creation of new data collection standards and criteria for stops and investigations. Certainly, we also believe that data needs to be updated on use of force to include things other than just when an officer is kills a community member. We definitely need to know when other use of force, when excessive use of force is being used in a way where great bodily harm is inflicted on community members, and to ensure that we can see what's happening in various local law enforcement as well. As it relates to immigrant communities, specifically on the implementation of Trust Act, we really encourage the legislature, as the priority enforcement program rolls out from the executive action taken by President Obama, to include strong and bold actions to uphold the intent of the Trust Act. We must ensure that communities can feel safe when they want to talk to law enforcement officers.
Thank
and
you very
certainly we
much.
won't see that if we go back to the way
Thank
ICE
you.
has been operating in California in the past.
Right. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Cindy Mitchell. In case I get cut off, I have some information to provide to you guys. I'm the sister of Mario Romero. He was murdered by Vallejo police on September 2nd, 2012. He was fired at over 40 times. He was shot 8 times through the palms of his hands. He wasn't wanted or suspected of doing anything, but he was still murdered. His body was stolen from the crime scene. He was cut from his seatbelt, and a police-issued training weapon was planted inside of his car. My family had to wait over 7 weeks before we buried him because his body was hidden. It was taken from the crime scene when there's no way he could have been alive. We're going all over California, everywhere. We're letting this story be heard because we have not received justice for this murder. This officer, Sean Kinney and Dustin Joseph, murdered my brother, but Sean Kinney, he killed 3 people in 2012, 3 unarmed men with white cars. And a lot of people don't know that the officers of the Vallejo Police Department are not drug tested beyond hire, and they're not even psychologically evaluated. They're using a marriage family counselor to talk to them. So we got a lot of serial killers out there, you know, that are not psychologically evaluated. They are terrorizing our community, and this is terrorism in the United States, and it needs to be addressed. And no drug testing, mandatory drug testing needs to be addressed. I'm here because, you know, my brother's story needs to be heard, and we need to receive justice. We went and we provided all the documentation
Thank you.
needed and have been pushed out.
Much.
So thank you.
And we'd like to have your information. Okay.
I'm Emily Harris. I'm with Californians United for a Responsible Budget. Thank you for holding this hearing. And we had put out an email to our membership across the state and got hundreds I had lots and lots of emails, phone calls from families who have experienced violence at the hands of police, and a lot of people who have loved ones who are locked up, and wanted to just ask that there could be more spaces for these types of hearings where there can be more representation from communities. I wanted to, as we were driving up, I wanted to bring up a theme that I think is really important around CURB's analysis around state spending. This morning in our drive, there was a headline in the SACB that there is likely going to be revenue in the billions that is higher than Governor Brown's plan expected. And I think a fear listening to the hearing today is that that money is going to result in more policing, more training for police, more cameras for police, more police for police. And I want to make sure that we don't follow the same trends of realignment and continue to fund the problem, and instead start putting resources into the services, treatment, medical and mental health, and other services that don't require people to have involvement with law enforcement as the way to access services, and that we reduce police contacts with communities by reducing the number of police that we have out in the streets, and that how we do that is by strengthening communities' abilities to respond to violence and harm without law enforcement being the primary way of doing that. And that's
Thank
about
you very much,
resources.
Emily. Your time is up. Again, if you have more testimony you'd like us to see in writing, please give it to us, anybody.
My name is Jess Haney. I'm with Critical Resistance, also a member of Californians United for a Responsible Budget. And I share the concerns that have been brought up here today about funneling more resources into policing in order to solve the problem or the violence of policing. And it seems clear to many people in the room that we can't solve policing or the violence that it imposes on communities by giving more body cameras. Oscar Grant was killed on camera. Eric Garner was killed on camera. There's a fundamental power that police have in their use of force, which inflicts harm and trauma onto communities. And so why are we only collecting data on policing practices? Why aren't we collecting equal amounts of data on programs and practices that communities safe that don't rely on the cops? As Gina Ferreira mentioned, community organizations are working year to year for funding, working hand to mouth. Why is there not equal support for their work and for their efforts as there is for policing? It's really troubling to hear about these coercive policing programs in Los Angeles that are doing basketball, that are doing eye care, that are doing reading services. It's uncreative to think that we can only provide rich resources for communities by making people complicit as police informants. Police are not mental health crisis experts. We can train people in de-escalation. We can train people to provide better treatment for mentally ill folks, for people who are experiencing psychological episodes. We would be remiss to fund the police thinking that they can do this better than people who do this for a living. So crisis intervention is not a specialty of the cops. It never has been, and it doesn't need to be. Just like basketball leagues don't need to be from the cops. One more thing. People who are skilled in de-escalation, who don't carry guns and who don't rely on arrests and funnel people into prisons are the things that are going to heal trauma from communities, not masking their violence with reading programs and basketball when they're still pulling people out.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Hi, my name is Emily Rose Johns. I'm an attorney with the National Lawyers Guild, and I'm also here as a community member. I wanted to just elevate a lot of the testimony, both from families with their pain and also some of the solutions that CURB and Critical Resistance raised about funneling more resources into community-based solutions and into trainings like de-escalation training and competency training and crisis training, as the judge who testified here today suggested for police, so that they're not in our communities feeling as if they are fighting an enemy, but they have the tools themselves to be effective. I also hope that somebody here today felt very empowered to bring up or to bring a bill to reverse the harmful effects of Copley. Almost every person here today who testified said that transparency was an important part of the solution. I want to raise just a personal anecdote briefly. I work with the Needle Exchange that's operated out of Berkeley, which is an exchange that operates on the street in the open with marginalized populations, especially populations of color and homeless populations. And there was an incident where police came to respond to something that had happened in a community, a call, and they came out in huge force with large shotguns. And I was interested in making a complaint because it terrorized our Needle Exchange participants and other Berkeley Free Clinic participants who were getting HIV tests around the corner. And when I went in to make the complaint, I found that I was required as a community member to give a ton of personal information about myself and to consent to an interview and invite basically police into my home, give them my address. As a white woman of relative privilege, it bothered me, and I can't imagine how harmful that is to, as the only option for people to make complaints about police in communities of color where they're already terrorized by police. And so when we look at those police complaint solutions, please look at that.
Thank you. That's a new issue. That's helpful.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Jonathan Luevanos. I'm from Fresno. I'm a community member of Fresno, and I'm talking because I'm concerned about my community. I'm from the east side. I'm just going to read some statistics, and then I'm done. So on June 11, Miguel Torres was killed by Fresno Police Department officers Colin Lewis, repeat shooter in 2014, and Jordan Wamhoff in what amounted to a total of 17 bullets. On September 16th, Matthew Porras was killed by FPD officers Joshua Bowling and Sergio Briceño, both repeat shooters in 2014, and what amounted to a total of 6 bullets. On September 22nd, Gustavo Acosta was killed by FPD officers Douglas Zavala and Jesse Navarro in what amounted to a total of 10 bullets. Like Debbie Reyes said, there have been 80 police murders since Chief Jerry Dyer started in 2001. This year, FPD has killed people of color with excessive force amounting from last year, from 10 to 17 bullets. As of today, 170 since 2001, 170 FPD officers have been involved in shootings, and there are 37 repeat shooters. Of the 37 repeat shooters, 8 officers have been involved in at least 3 shootings, and 1 officer has shot 8 different people. Currently, there's an officer on the force who has shot 6 people. So, I would like y'all to think about this.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
And again, if you can give us in writing some of those statistics, that is very helpful for us. Thank you. Yeah.
My turn. Hello.
You know.
Hi, my name is Jabrilla Carr, and I'm a native South Sacramentan, and I'm a member of the Avondale Glen Elder Neighborhood Association here in Sacramento. I just have some concrete suggestions, since that's what you all are asking us to provide. I would like to say that I agree with Ms. Weber, who's not here anymore, but about the standardized policing throughout the state. I think that's a common sense solution from a policy standpoint. Are you guys? Thank you. I would also like to say, as far as how these hearings are organized, it would be very beneficial if you required the police to stay, to be present. I'm from Sacramento, and I'm completely shocked that I didn't see our sheriff here. I don't see anybody from the county that I live in here. So if they're here, the people that were here, it would be very helpful if they stayed. And from you guys' point, because now you have to hear all the complaints, and they're not here to hear it for you. And also for you all maybe to get some, I don't know what the training is or whatever, but I guess some sensitivity training, because cutting off people, I know a minute is a time limit, but cutting off people and arguing back with a community that's hurt, that you asked for a comment for, that's not very productive. And I think that's all that the woman from Pico was trying to point out, that this is a very good strategy. This is how it can be more productive. Also, a specific program that has worked mostly in community violence, especially with youth, is restorative justice programs. I think that might be very helpful to look at between police officers and communities. So a police officer that may have been involved in a killing or something like that, to work with the families to restore that justice, to restore that relationship. And also within the community, just in South Sacramento, we've had several murders in the past couple of weeks. I don't know how to heal in my community. So programs like that, that to
Thank
me
you
would be
very
where the money
much.
would go to.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, my name is Mohammed Sheikh, and I'm with Critical Resistance. And I just want to say a couple of things and then make a recommendation. First is this whole hearing was framed around data collection. And as you've heard from a lot of community members and others, that there's actually a lot of data already out there. The only problem that seems to be the case is that the police themselves, the ones that are doing the shooting, aren't the ones collecting the data. But we're collecting the data. Our communities know what it's like to be targeted by police violence. So we understand that data very well. And increasing data is not actually going to solve the problem. There was also some conversation about like outliers and the bad police versus the good police. And if you look at the history of policing and the way that it actually targets communities of color, this isn't an example of just a few individuals that are bad. This is actually a very systemic, a very structural racial problem. And because of that, because of how systemic the system of policing is and its impact on communities of color, the recommendation would be to start defunding from police. What you need to do is actually redirect funds that you're giving to policing and put them into the programs that actually the police themselves are saying that they're taking up, like mental health services, like job training and re-entry programs. Why are the police the ones doing this? Why are armed forces doing these things and not specialists that we're actually investing in? So
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Flojean Griffin. I am here representing the Sacramento Sister Circle. I'd like to first thank you for organizing this panel. I was actually one of the people who wrote in and wrote letters over the Christmas break to request it, and so I really appreciate that. I'd like to, though, echo the importance of having a space for community voices, and I'd like to make a concrete recommendation that if there is going to be a public hearing in the future, that the community members are able to speak earlier in the day. We recognize the nature of human fatigue, but it says something when the community members are left at the end and that they're now getting the least of your patience and the least of your attention. In addition to that, I'd also like to point out the tenor of the interaction between the public and and those of you who have been elected by us has been much more hostile than when some of the invited speakers were invited to give comment and went over their allotted time. And so again, I recognize the human failing of the day, but at the same time, we need to address that as well. In terms of concrete recommendations, I'd like to first point out that Pastor White mentioned something called adverse childhood events and trauma that's happened in communities. We need to understand the cycle that occurs when we have trauma in a community and then people are growing up in it. It's never addressed. And so I think one of the first things that I would recommend is partnerships with public health to be able to address some of the trauma. Secondly, I'd talk about training and de-escalation so that we are not in situations, and this has been brought up earlier, but I want to bring it up again, so that we're not in situations where we are dealing with people with mental illness or other historical traumas and actually adding fuel to the fire. In addition to that, the implicit bias training is definitely necessary, and it's not just something that we need to do with police officers, it's something that we need to do throughout our community, including our elected officials, including us as the public. And then in terms of some legislative recommendations, definitely the independent prosecutor. I think that will help to restore trust, which is one of the themes of the day. Also an early warning system, which was mentioned by the NAACP, and then also a civilian review board that actually has teeth to be able to make recommendations. The police should be part of our community, and that should be something that we have some control over. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And this is the end of the hearing.
I'd like to say something.
And Assemblyman Quirk has
Yeah. First of all, I would like to thank everyone who's still here and everyone who's still here who testified. We really did listen to what you had to say, and Chair Hancock and I have stayed an hour after the hearing was supposed to end to hear that. We did hear it. We do realize that there are systematic problems, that it is more than just a few bad apples. We did get recommendations from Judge Cordell, who has acted in San Jose to monitor their police force that included many of the things that have been mentioned here. This is not just about collecting data, though we need the data to understand how bad the problem is. I also have used the crowdsourcing data. I realize that what data there is nationally underestimates what happens by at least a factor of 2 just based on the crowdsourcing data. The same is here in California. The national data would tell you there are 40 to 60 killings a year. The number is at least twice, maybe even 3 times that. So we know there are problems. We will work on them. We did listen to you. These stories of cousins and sons and nephews who have been killed did affect me greatly. We're going to try and do something about it. Thank you.
And I would say that was beautifully put. Thank you very much, Assembly Member, and we will. This is just the beginning. We're getting started on our budget process, on our policy process, and it was very important information that we got. Thank you so much. Thank you.